allowing your awareness to take in everything that arises. And just resting in space as phenomena arise, abide, and dissolve on their own. That phenomena could be in your own body or outside of it, or in between outside and inside. Just here, resting with it all. Whatever you notice, rest with it. It's welcome. The real emphasis here is on feeling. So when we say feeling the body breathing, it's really feeling your body breathing, wherever you feel that. So it's not on thinking, it's not really even on the breath itself, but it's on the feeling of the body breathing. Okay, so just relax out of the meditation. Do whatever stretching or what you need to do to come back into your body, to the present moment. The space that you're in, into this space that we're sharing together. So, welcome everyone. And I thought we'd just do introductions. Uh, so your name, where you're located, the pronouns you use, and how you're feeling today or right now. So anyone who wants to start, you can just unmute yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Akil. I use they, them pronouns. I'm calling in from Amiskwachiwaskahikan, Edmonton. And I, for the last 3 days, have been having a hard time sleeping. So I'm feeling a mixture of being like a little bit wired, a little bit overtired, a little bit sleepy.
Okay. Thank you, Akil. Can y'all hear Teresa? Okay, there we go.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Teresa. I'm in Smyrna, Georgia. Actually, after we just sat, I feel calmer. I've been working a lot over the last week or so. Also dealing with some grief, lost a family member recently. So just I feel a little disoriented, generally speaking. So it was nice to have a moment to recollect myself. So thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alicia. I also go by Ali. My pronouns are they, them, and a in Spanish. I'm currently in Lenape land. I am transitioning and entering a space of new routine, new practices with myself, and coming from having a lot of individual personal practice time and rejoining Sangha. And I'm just very grateful for all of you, and that meditation was beautiful. Thank you, Shante, and hello.
So good to see you, Alicia.
Anita, she and her. I come from, I'm actually located in the same place as Akil. It's too bad that we're not together here next time we get organized. So I'm in Edmonton, originally from Italy. And I feel blessed being just here in the backyard with the warm weather, which is unusual in Edmonton. And I feel that I really letting go a lot of stuff, and it's not easy. I feel that resistance of my ego mind just bring me back to thinking and doing. But I think that that wants, like, the part of myself that wants to come out is just becoming stronger and stronger. So feels good.
Thank you, Anita.
Hi, I'm Janelle, she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm calling from Cherokee and Port Creek Indian land in northern Alabama, and I am not sure how I am today. So I'm giving myself just some space to be okay with that. There's a lot coming at me, like work-wise, personally, and it's fine. I'm also feel like I'm dealing with like the speeding up of everything, and I'm trying to anyway. So yeah, I'm trying to like just I don't know hold space within that without getting overwhelmed, but still processing all the things I'm feeling. So. And I'll also say I did take you like seriously when you were said, you know, whatever is going on around, take it in. And so right now I'm trying to have my headphones on, but my son is watching a YouTube video upstairs. And this like complete obnoxious Minecraft YouTuber, I kept hearing his voice every now and again. It's just like, God, I don't want this asshole in my space.
Yes, the kids in their like YouTube tutorial videos. Believe me, my nephew is like, I'm like, no, I don't want to see a video about play. Anyway, oh, I'm so glad you're all here. Shantae, they, them, theirs. Canarsie, Munse, Lenape, Hoking Land, Brooklyn, New York. Today I'm feeling very, I was feeling very excited about teaching today. I don't always feel that way. And yeah, just holding a lot of space for the energy of there's a lot going on in the world. And yeah, and being in New York, it's interesting. We get to hear and experience a lot of different diasporas. So there's a lot of stuff that's just it's so warm here and everyone's so happy, and surprisingly in my neighborhood at least everyone's still wearing their mask. I don't know what's going on, but it feels good to be here with you and to be in community. And I feel like this is the perfect time to be talking about Windhorse. So I want to just first, before we get into the invoking Windhorse practice, the 5 step, I don't know, but I think it's the 5-step practice, but practice I put in the chat. I want to talk a little about, the kind of logic behind these practices. So Windhorse or Lungta is another way of talking about, there's a lot of different terms for it. Windhorse, Lungta, Ashe, but it's really it's our energy. It's that we have. And it's really about first reminding ourselves that we have this energy that's both internal, external, we can tap into. Then it's about connecting to it, gathering it, experiencing it, and then, letting it out. So we can do that, we can embody that, and we will embody that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the, Buddhist logic or tantric logic behind these teachings. These come from the tantric tradition, from the Kala Chakra, from the Shambhala tradition, and they're really for everyone. And there's lots of different religions and lineages that talk about these teachings with different language, or sometimes the same language. Ashe, right? Which is also Lukumi and Yoruba and West African indigenous religions. Same thing, right? The energy that it makes up all things. But really, when we're we practice, or we come and we're inspired to practice meditation for whatever reason, and we're living our lives and we're practicing our practice, and we're trying to integrate them. And at some point, at least all of you here, and many people and many of my students and my teachers and my Dharma siblings, at some point we say, well, and myself too, I'm not just practicing to, practice. I want to actually achieve something. Although we don't always use that word achieve. And what is it we really want to achieve? Well, we want to really remember our inherent wakefulness. And this is the reason why we practice, to remind ourselves of what's possible, right? That even when the annoying Minecrafter YouTuber or the, the life is happening around us in our home or outside in the world, we can also actually be with whatever's arising, whether it's ugly or pretty or mediocre. We don't have to have things be pristine or perfect. And in this sense, we're really trying to develop this quality of the paramita of prajna, right? Of primordial wisdom, of vision. And not really, with our eyes, but with our, like with our third eye, right? Really seeing, really trusting our inherent wisdom, and not kind of just falling for the ploys, and the ways that distraction arises, not just from ourselves, but the way that, okay, I'm a borderline conspiracy theorist, so bear with me, but the way that distraction also happens to arise all the time through media, government, and other ways of manufactured crises, right? So in the US, just a few days ago, it was a gas crisis shortage, right? I mean, and sometimes I'm like, oh, the US, okay, we're not, and then I'm like, oh wow, we are dum-dums. Like people putting gasoline in plastic bags, Burger King cups. I just read something, someone's Hummer exploded because, anyway. So I'm like, okay, right, we are a nation of dummies. Like that's not actually like, and the kind of way that manufactured crisis is a part of the system of the world right now. And it's very easy, of course, to get caught up because the world is so big. And we really don't know what's true and what's not. Right? And also because real crises are often underreported or played down, or as with the occupation and violence against Palestinians, somehow made to seem like an equal fight, right? And so how do we develop this eyes of the Dharma, right? Part of it is sitting with, inviting in our neuroses. Often, I mean, maybe this is not the case, but it seems to be the case. People think that spirituality, really any kind of spirituality, is somehow becoming perfect, or like a robot, or like Teflon, or like water off a duck's back, right? Nothing bothers us. But that's not actually what Buddhist meditation, it's meant to make us more human, more supple, feel more, feel everything. But to not be completely made wild by feeling and experiencing everything, but to build up slowly our tolerance, our capacity to hold first our own stuff that bothers us. Ugh, I hate that about me. But being able to hold that, okay, that's what I do. I'm a little arrogant. Okay, I'm like, vain, whatever it is. And it's like not to be like, that's bad, but just be like, oh, that's part of my, how I express myself, how wisdom is trying to arise. And then I can see and look how that, impacts myself and other people. And if the impact is, harmful, then that is work that I have to do. And if it's neutral or if it's beneficial, okay. So first we we welcome in all of the parts of ourselves, good, bad, and different, right? We don't, because we don't actually know, usually it's the stuff that we don't like that actually contains the seeds of our wakefulness. Right? So we begin to see properly with our kind of dharmic vision, like this is wisdom trying to arise. And it's it may arise in this very unsavory way, or it may arise in a more enjoyable way, or maybe something I don't notice because it's kind of neutral and boring, And so when we see our own brilliance, when we experience our own brilliance, we're not blinded by it. We can begin to learn how to look at it, feel it, hear it, use it. So this kind of quality of dharmic vision has 7 qualities. Okay, so bear with me. So the first is a word we're all familiar with, egolessness. And egolessness in this sense is actually not, it's not talking about our, like ego, id, super ego kind of thing, because we actually need the ego to, without the ego, we don't, well, without all of that structure of the cognition, we can't live, right? We won't feed ourselves, and we won't bathe ourselves, and we won't protect ourselves. So a lot of times when you see people who have very extreme mental illness, you could say that's because there's some kind of quality of not knowing what's relative safety and what's relative security. So we need that kind of like, oh, right, time to go to sleep, time to wake up, eat, exercise, whatever it is, like go outside, there's a storm, go inside, But this really has to do with not hiding or not protecting ourselves from our reality of what's arising for us. Like sometimes we put on a good face and then we come home and maybe we're a little wild at home. We're a little cruel to our family or to our animals or to ourselves. Or I'm going to be good all day. And then when I get home, I mean, we're home all day. So maybe that, but in the olden times when we used to when there was a difference between inside and outside, we come home and then it's, I can let everything hang out, And in this sense, we're saying, well, you can let everything hang out no matter where you are. Because you're not afraid of being judged. And we're not, in a way, we're saying, I'm giving up my privacy. I'm giving up hibernation. I'm giving up having, dark corners. I'm giving up the secret self. I'm willing to trust, well, this comes next, but I'm willing to trust in my process. That I don't have to follow this model of over here, I'm like this, over there, I'm like this. But I can actually be a little raw in the world. And so your whole life is included in your practice, your home life, your work life, your romantic life, your fantasy life. It's all in the soup. There's no hiding from the Dharma in that. So you may notice in your own sense that you begin to care for your environment differently without neurosis, or even with neurosis, you notice your neurosis. Like, okay, like I'm super neurotic about cleanliness and order. And I mean, not like to a OCD point, but I like, I like order and I like things relatively clean. But one thing that really changed when I began to have a more dharmic quality to that is I began to experience joy in watering and speaking to my plants, and in cleaning my home and arranging things in a way that was pleasing. I began to experience it as not just for me, but for any potential guests, for the ancestors and the dralas to have a place to land, and as a way to express my gratitude for wakefulness. And that it's like my environment could actually wake me up too. So these ordinary things become also a part of our egolessness, a part of our dharmic experience. It's not only, when we're meditating or when we're doing some fancy practice, but it's just ordinary life. And in that sense, we don't have to puff ourselves up when we practice, because in washing our dishes and drinking our water, in making our bed and kissing our loved one and walking our dog and watching television and eating our ice cream, we're experiencing that dharmic vision. We're enjoying our lives. We're present for it. And so we don't have to like hide out. We will, and we do, but we don't have to hide out. Oh, I'm just gonna Netflix for 17 hours because that's my reward for being good. We can just say, I'm gonna enjoy my Netflix, There's nothing, I'm just gonna enjoy this weird movie, or whatever. It doesn't have to be like a reward for being good. It can just all be part of the cycle of practice. So when I'm at work, I'm just working, And so in this way, we can begin to develop a quality of, and this is a word that may be overwrought for some of us, but I'll try to explain it in a way that where it's not completely overdetermined. So the next kind of quality of dharmic vision is faith. But in this sense, faith, we're really talking about trust, right? So faith or trust or experience really occurs when you begin to put kind of egolessness into practice, right? When you say, okay, Shante said, like, I can be, I can like, I don't have to be sloppy, right? I can like, even if I'm casual, it can be with a little dignity. Well, let's see how that feels. And if it's beneficial for us, if it feels like something that helps wake us up, then we begin to trust that quality of egolessness. We begin to say, oh, okay, I'm gonna practice this. And that trust is what we call, what you call faith. And faith is also this kind of sense of, I am intrinsically worthy, and so are all other beings. Now, I may not live or express myself as being intrinsically worthy all the time, and I certainly don't necessarily see others expressing that inherent worthiness, but I come to believe that that's true. Because if it's not true, if some people are intrinsically worthy and some people aren't, then we can't be liberated. Then only some people can be liberated. And the Dharma says everyone and everything can be liberated, all beings. So if I'm stingy, if I have a belief based in stinginess or what's the word? Scarcity, which there are religions like that, where there's some religions where there's an actual number of people who are going to be saved, as it were. But in this worldview, all beings, viruses, bacteria, amoeba, cockroaches, flies, mosquitoes, bad people are inherently worthy intrinsically, just by being born. Now, whether or not they know that or whether or not they act in that place is a whole other discussion. And we don't excuse or even allow violent, harmful behavior. We fight because we believe in intrinsic worthiness. We fight for people's dignity. But because I believe that all beings are intrinsically worthy, I don't decide who, can practice with me, who can't. Right. Oh, I like that person, so, And this faith really has this kind of quality of longing. We want to experience ourselves as inherently worthy for more than just a few fleeting seconds. And so we practice in order to experience that. And then the more we practice and experience that, the more faith we have, the more trust we have, and the more then longing we have for that. We start to long for that experience rather than for hiding out, for protection, for faith in samsara, right? Or the cycle of hope and fear. We start to long for this more enduring quality, which is in us, inherent worthiness, which cannot be destroyed or created. Okay, I'm going through these really fast, but what I'll try to do is also send you these this reading, which this is based on a talk from Trungpa Rinpoche, so he goes into. So this next eye of Dharma is this quality of daring, or we're not afraid to try. Experimentation, you could say. Playfulness. And you kind of say, okay, I'm going to jump. I'm going to try it. I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to practice. I'm going to have trust in this inherent worthiness. I've experienced egolessness. I've experienced this faith. And now I'm going to really go out in the fucking world and try to live this way. Stumbling, halting, confused. That's all right. I'm just going to go for it. And there's the ideas then it's like, well, what if I get hurt? What if I fail? What if? So we're trying. So there's a story that, or thing that Trungpa Rinpoche once said, which is, it's like, and this is more to do with refuge, but it's like you jump out of a plane with no parachute. You're like, uh-oh. But the good news is that there's no ground. So there you go, right? We're just in space, trying things out. No guarantees. So that's the challenging part. And that's where the daring comes in, because in some ways in samsara, you're like, well, it's guaranteed. I know there's a cycle, right? It's like things come into my life, they abide for a while, they leave, I'm sad, right? And you can build your whole life in investing in samsara, and that's kind of like a way of, that that's not permanent, but you're gonna grasp at all that. So there's kind of a guarantee, But on this side of things, with the daring, there's no guarantee. But when you experience the results of your daring, there's liberation. It's the end of suffering. That's what's at the end of that, this kind of work. It's the end of our investment in the cycle of hope and fear. So we have to be daring, exploratory, and willing to step out. That's, we've got the egolessness, we've got the faith, the trust. And then it's like, okay, now what do I do with those qualities? Let me try it out. Let me see what happens. And I know there's no guarantees that it's gonna work out, because I'm just in space floating around with no parachute, but I'm not gonna hit the ground either. So then you're out here, you're floating in space, you're trying things out, you're being daring, but it's important to remember, the quality of gentleness with ourselves, with what we experience, and with others. So we don't want to be at a place where the daring leads us to be arrogant or insensitive or not nihilistic, or what's the word? Like extreme sports kind of person, thrill seekers. We want to also have a sense of gentleness and know that daring means we'll scrape our knees sometimes, and our heart will be broken and we'll be disappointed. But all of that is the experience of wakefulness. There's a sense of kind of elegance and beauty to that, because we are beginning to see others and ourselves with a sense of tenderness. So sometimes people who really get on my fucking nerves, sometimes it can be like, I can just see like, oh, this person is truly suffering. I don't have to get in there and like, oh, let me take care of you or anything like that. But I'm like, wow, yeah, I see it. I see it. And it reminds me of how I suffer, where I'm stuck on the hamster wheel. So just some gentleness with my experience and the way that many people are fumbling around in the dark, blindfolded, with noise canceling headphones on and oven mitts. They're completely separated from their sense perceptions and from their somatic experience. They're only up here, so they're just bumping, they're just flailing around and hurting a lot of people and not knowing. We've all been there. Okay, so what I said: egolessness, faith, daring, gentleness, fearlessness. So the gentleness kind of relaxes you. You've been daring, you kind of, okay, I'm gonna experiment, but you're also gentle. So you can feel the kind of synchronization of body, emotions, and mind. And when you experience a synchronized experience in meditation, you can kind of go anywhere. You can kind of explore because you're relaxed, right? When you're relaxed in your body, when your mind is relaxed, when your emotions are relaxed, as things come up, you don't have to grasp them or push them away. You can just experience them. So fearlessness doesn't mean you don't have fear. It means I'm going to stay with this experience, even as my fear is telling me, run away, run far away from that. And sometimes with fearlessness, I'm saying all this, we do all this with a guide, whether it's a teacher or a psychotherapist or whatever, right? This is not about going it alone. All of this is, these are kind of stages in your experience as you're working, by yourself and in relation. Warriorship is about relationality. How we wake up is relational. There's no waking up without the spiritual friend, as all the great Dharma teachers say. So this fearlessness comes from relaxation, to be like, oh, okay, I can experience the chaos of life without, hiding. So you're not afraid to give things up or try things out, right? And so this quality of fearlessness leads us to samadhi, or a general awareness, mindfulness. Sometimes that's translated as, but it's a general state of being aware of your impact in the world, what's happening around you, right? Awareness is not just for the meditation cushion. And this doesn't mean like a neurotic, and that's, reading the news and being on the social media and knowing everything that's going on. It's a sense of you're walking into a situation and you're not just ego-based, but you're aware of, I'll give you an example. So in the US, the Center for Disease Control has said now people who are vaccinated don't have to wear masks anywhere. Okay. So some people are like, yeah, this is great. People are like, well, what about my kids and my grandma? And, what about other, but it's about not just your own situation, but thinking about the people who may be impacted by that. So what about the people who encounter 200 or 300 people a day because they work in Target or Walmart or a grocery store? So what about they're vaccinated, but what about their experience? So it's like, it's having a general awareness that encompasses more than just my immediate life, but awareness of how things actually impact, because we're interacting. Even in COVID, we're interacting with others. Having a general awareness of, for me, like what's going on in my neighborhood, a general awareness, not like being nosy, having my head out the window, but a general awareness of the feeling and the tenor of things. A general awareness of what's needed in our more immediate environment, not just so focused on our own life. So as we deepen our practice, it also expands our awareness. We can hold more without damage to ourselves. And let me get through these so we can actually get to practice. And then the seventh one, having developed these kind of 6 qualities, we actually develop a sense of humor about our experience and the world and what's happening. So we don't become negative, serious meditators or boohoo crying all the time, right? We have to, we have to have a sense of humor, which is sense of humor and sense of sense of timing in humor has to do with being present. So sometimes that just bubbles up, we can enjoy life. So these are kind of the 7 qualities of the, in this writing, Trungpa Rinpoche calls it the vision of the Great Eastern Sun, but I wanted to just make it more broader as, Dharmic, our prajna eyes, our dharmic vision. So that's, I just wanted to go through that really quickly, and I will make a copy of that and have that sent. But before we do the practice, let me see. Fundamental optimism. The courage to work with ourselves comes as basic trust in ourselves. Is a sort of fundamental optimism. In the beginning, you act like a warrior, and then you actually become brave. Yes, yes, yeah. Great, thank you, Anita. So before we practice Windhorse, I just wanted to see if there were any questions or. So putting the practice in the chat. Let me just bring it up for myself here. Where are you? So the practice of raising Windhorse. So again, let's just take our seat. Feeling our seat and our feet. You could say this is our place, knowing our place in the world, taking our place, taking our spot, taking our seat as an awakened being. And we open with the bow. That could be an Anjali, or it could be warrior's bow with our hand on our thighs. And here we're just bowing to our own wakeful quality, wakeful self, as well as our Dharma siblings and their wakeful selves. Expressing gratitude. And we can recite this homage, radiating confidence, peaceful, illuminating the way of discipline, eternal ruler of the three worlds. May the great eastern sun be victorious. May our dharmic vision, all those qualities we just talked about, be victorious. Victorious over what? Passion, aggression, ignorance. Okay. Kiki, take your seat. Key, establish your presence and take a good posture. Key, let go of discursive thought. So, feel heaven and earth. So, feel the earth supporting you, the firmness of the ground beneath you. So, feel the vastness of heaven, the space above and around you. Ashe, switch on at the heart level, feeling heaven and earth, body and mind, abruptly joining in your awareness, a sense of spontaneous melting and waking up. La, be genuine. Touch the sadness and gentleness of your heart. That's your warrior's confidence. Intensifying that, arouse confidence, which is gentleness and sadness. Yellow, radiate to space while still being there, open. Radiate 360 degrees, top of your body, back of your body, bottom of your body, front of your body. project out confident awareness, some gentle, sad awareness into space. And end with a bow. So I just want to open it up for any thing.
I have a question.
Yes.
What does it mean when you say intensify?
Feel. Just feel it. The intensify word is a little hard because sometimes people are like, Care Bear heart, you know. So just feel even more, feel even more, feel even more. Melt, 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 melt. Really go into your experience of feeling. It's a good question, yeah. Yeah, so really feel it even more, feel it even more, feel it even more, feel it. Feeling is the real language of our experience. And from that experience of feeling, then we can actually more genuinely send that out. Otherwise, it's just concepts. It's just, oh yeah, okay, warrior, feel gentleness, tenderness. But it's really feel whatever I'm feeling. There's always tenderness happening, but we can't always access it. So this is a practice of accessing that so that we can, that is our power. That is our power.
I just want to say, sorry, I think that, like, personally, I feel that the opposite will work for me. Sometimes when I intensify too much,
Yeah,
which is comes kind of natural the way I grew up, stuff like that. It's actually, it's by cooling off a bit that I really able to go, you know, I don't know how to express it, but it's it feels to me that for me it works to how you say it in English, I don't know, to not intensify but the opposite, just in order to.
what does it feel like when it's beneficial for you? Like what does it feel like in your body or your experience?
It's like, so for me, it's like when I intensify too much, it seems to me that almost as it brings me to a level where this fire, it just burns.
Yes.
And I feel almost as that you have to, like when you're cooking something, right? If the temperature is too high, it burns.
Yeah.
But so for me, it feels like I have to find the right temperature. Then I'm
Yes.
able to, yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of
that
hard
makes
to
sense.
explain, but
No, that
it
makes
just
sense.
came that,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's like, let me see. It's like, so you feel you bringing together, what you're bringing together is heaven and earth at your heart center, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you feel a sense of melting
Mm-hmm.
and waking out or kind of arousing. And then there's a sense of touching into what's there. So it says here, you know, sadness and gentleness, but whatever's there, right? Touching that. And I think the intensifying is not so much a grinding, or it's not, you know, it's feeling it more, right? And you feel it to the point, as you said, that it's just there pulsing, right? You don't want to go exponential, but you just feel it there pulsing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you send it out. So wherever it gets to that point where you feel like, oh, right, that's right where it is. That's the right temperature. That's the right rhythm. That's the right volume. Perfect. You know, and then just feel that. Feel. And then we're sending it out. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's almost as when it's just my personal way of it's just when it feels to intensify, it's always for me kind of hard to hold it, and it becomes an emotion, and so I get out of that all, you know. So I had to really arrive at one point where it just feels without being too intense that becomes an emotion, and it just then I lose that, you know, connection.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I wanted to share that I really appreciate what you just said about, you know, sometimes that the tenderness is there, and sometimes it's about accessing it, and relate it back to when we were talking about, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm gonna do all these things so then I can watch the 17 hours of Netflix. And recently I've been feeling like I made a lot of more room for myself and left a very toxic workplace. And now there are feelings of, or it feels like there are new feelings of like goodness or like good energies, and I'm resisting them. And even when I come to accepting them, I accept them with this conditional of, oh, this I get to now have these good things because I traded all that suffering, because I suffered so much, so now I get to have good things. And tying it to what you're saying, it's like, no, we are inherently worthy, and that tenderness is not, it's like it's appearing out of nowhere. It's been there, I've made room for it, I can access it now. And probably it was the tenderness that guided me through the suffering to reach this place. And so I just really appreciate you sharing that. Helps me get clarity. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think one of the things that I have to always remind myself in my own experience is that, you know, none of this is linear. Oh, that it were, you know? And so we are constantly coming back to these remembering, right? It's about remembering our capabilities, remembering our inherent worthiness. I mean, I you know, we forget sometimes, you know, maybe not completely forget, right? But, you know, I get caught up all the time. And then it's like, oh, right, sometimes it's something very, very simple, you know? You know, sometimes it's I mean, very simple, like, oh, like that plant, or oh, like my dog, or oh, that book, or oh, you know, I just have a memory of a song or a sound and I'm brought back to sanity. And then more and more, I don't leave sanity, you know, so that's good. But and we go through things, and it's um, sometimes the kind of pain of life and the pain of memory crowds out our feeling of inherent worthiness. It's just so loud, the other stuff. And it's not necessarily something that's reflected and supported in the world, right? It's like, where are we, do we see, and are we asked to cultivate inherent worthiness? And so it makes complete sense that even the Dharma, even these teachings, they somehow get filtered through abuse and self-abuse and kind of like rigidity. And watching our own experience, we don't even have to look at the world. I mean, we look at the world and we see the suffering, but even just watching our own experience and the way we talk to ourselves and the way that our worthiness is conditional on what we do for others, on how our body looks, on how much work we do, on how much practice we do, whatever it is, right? And then one day it hits us, no matter what I do, no matter how shitty I am, no matter how good I am inherently worthy. Oh. And when we fully, really believe that, then naturally, we desire to do things that spread worthiness. When we give up trying to prove anything to ourselves, to our parents, to people who said we were shit, then when we say, oh, I feel it, I feel it, I can feel it all over me, that I'm worthy, I believe it, I trust it, then something, we remember something so fundamental that it changes how we relate to ourselves and the rest of the world. Doesn't make us perfect, or anything like that. It just changes our orientation. We are oriented toward wakefulness. We're oriented toward this vision of wholesomeness, of possibility, of goodness, of sanity. And it's there, it's there. And so, I think all of us practice in part because we believe that there's some good shit there, and we want the ability to strengthen and cultivate our own worthiness, which spreads. It's light, it can't be contained, right? So we're learning how to then send that out, because there are a lot of beings that are suffering so deeply that they, even if they want to be free, they cannot, because they're so deep in their experience of suffering. Right? And unfortunately, many of those beings who are suffering are also beings who haven't resources, and so they are able to amplify their suffering so that others suffer. You ever notice how many leaders are monsters, you know? I mean, India would be in a different position if Modi wasn't suffering so deeply. But because he's so deep in his suffering, he has the power to spread that to millions, literally, of people. It was the same with Trump. It's the same with, what's his name, Bolsonaro in Brazil. Any despot. And so if sorrow and suffering can be amplified, so can liberation. We're just in a time where sorrow and suffering has been sold to us, it's been like deep fried and it tastes good. So we don't realize how bad it is for us, or it's been dressed up, with diamonds and jewels. So we think it's actual worthiness. And so we, with our, small corner of the world that we occupy, have to really take up the mantle of inherent worthiness. Just spreading it to the beings in our immediate lives is world altering. Being a source of help and health is really important. Ah, my favorite buddy. You come to hear the Dharma, right? And my dog's sleeping, so I don't know, she doesn't care. This is a very tender time. And we've been in a very tender time for a long time. And I mean, a long time, longer than any of us have been alive. And it feels like it's now or never in a lot of ways, climate change and disease and, resources. And it feels like people are testing out a lot of weird stuff right now. And so luckily we still have the internet, so we can still connect to each other. But it's serious. This business of inherent worthiness is serious, because the messages that we're not inherently worthy are only going to increase. One of the things you've probably all seen is this real emphasis. I was just reading something about it. I didn't get a chance to finish a couple articles, but this real emphasis on hiding, this real emphasis on like people losing their COVID weight and hiding that behind wellness, right? And kind of like shaming people, and so you see that these celebrities are like, oh, I'm in the worst shape of my life. And it's like, well, you have 7 chefs and like all you do is work out all day. That's like a different, like, you have nannies and you have people cooking for you. And so that's one thing, right? Is like, we need to, and then this other thing about making up for lost time. These students have lost out on a year. I was like, whoa, 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 are we alive? So there's all this ways that it's playing on our, oh, my body looks like this. It's not, and we don't know whether you're not. We just decided that the way it looks, or I lost time. I mean, it's so that these industries are already ramping up to tell us we're not worthy. It doesn't mean don't take care of your body and don't, things, and don't pay if you have children, listen, if they know how to like put on their shoes, they're doing great. But this sense of like, we've lost, now we've got to catch up and make up all the money. It's gone. Whatever happened has happened. That's done. And we lived through it and we're alive. But it's all based on this idea of inherent unworthiness. It's not really based on well-being. Because if it's based on well-being, we'd be like, wow, all of our mental health is in the shitter. Like, less work, not more work. You know, why don't we just go to a 4-day work week or a 3-day work week? Capitalism, and people are like, fuck this job, I don't care. You know what I mean? I'll go live in the mountains somewhere or the beach or whatever. People have had it, you know? And so, but the machine, right, is telling us, no, you're not, you know? And so we have to stay true to our, yeah, I wanna, you know, I know I'm noticing some things. My sleep is off. I'm noticing maybe I'm doing something that's putting, you know, not helpful for me, but not internalizing these messages that say we have to get back on the treadmill, both of like speeding up work but that instead we figure out what's, you know, how do I need to be oriented toward my wakefulness and my wisdom. I know, like, I walk about 5 miles a day. Makes me feel good, you know? That's not for everybody. I love walking, you know? And I do my yoga, and sometimes I'll lift my little weights, and it's like, you know, but it's very integrated into my life. If I was to start spending 3 hours at the gym, I would be worried. You know, that wouldn't be balanced. Just like if I was spending, I don't know, 6 hours a day watching TV, I'd probably be like, I'm probably depressed. You know, like, you know, so inherent worthiness is also knowing kind of your internal pH balance. Giving yourselves breaks when you need breaks, taking naps when you need naps, working when you need to work, you know? So I think I'll just stop there, and you have this, I'll send you these readings probably sometime this week. I'll have Daisha send it out and the recording out, and you know, you can practice if you want to, or don't practice it, but you have it. It's for your enjoyment and for your benefit whenever you feel you need it. So are there any last questions or comments before we wrap up? Okay, friends. Well, thank you so much for showing up today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your practice, and just dedicating whatever was beneficial to you, whatever felt helpful, just to all of the beings, seen and unseen, who are suffering so much. That we know and that we don't know, who are suffering, and that may they truly be liberated in this lifetime. May all of us truly be liberated and enjoy our fucking lives and enjoy time on this incredible planet. So thank you so much. The next group practice is June. Flyer will be up soon, but it's June 26th. It's 12:30 to 1:30 Eastern time. Oh my God, look at that dog. And we'll be doing White Tara practice, 12:30 to 1:30 Eastern. So it's just an hour. And yeah, I'll make sure we'll send out that out. But that flyer should be coming out in a couple of weeks. So thank you all. Be well. Have a great day.